right from the get-go, we saw, a very different Donald Trump today. Today, of all days, he reminded me of a heavyweight boxer, somebody that was completely focused, completely determined. I've been assessing Donald Trump for 10 years now, just before the American election. So I was actually based over in America when the 2016 campaign was happening. And I think largely, Donald Trump, to a lot of people, he's a bit of a parody. It's almost like a pantomime villain because he's got so much material in terms of the way that he performs and behaves. And I know, in recent years, I just had a month's worth of work just off the way, be shaking hands with various politicians. And I think today, for me, marks a total contrast in the way his mindset was working because, he's fought some incredible odds to get to become president again, and no one thought he would do it. So I think today for him was a very important day to show those that did criticise him or ridicule him. For me, some key things were we didn't see any of the hand gestures that we usually see that he makes. He was very stoic. Now that says to me that on the rallies and campaigns, he was kind of looking everywhere, very animated, his hands and gestures. But today, of all days, he reminded me of a heavyweight boxer, somebody that was completely focused, completely determined to be at the best. And right from the get-go, right from getting out of the vehicle with Melania, we saw, a very different Donald Trump today. In previous speeches, one of the things that I was asked to assess was, because my specialty is credibility and truthfulness, did Donald Trump really believe some of the things that he was saying to the media? And the truth was always yes, his body language was always consistent with what he was saying. So that's one of the things I look for, is that is there an inconsistency sometimes with politicians? So obviously I've worked on, every kind of head-to-head debate in the UK, for example, and sometimes certain politicians may not seem that confident or may not be completely on point with what they're saying. But with Trump, now, yes, I think we're going to see a very different version of him. And, in all likelihood, this is his kind of last attempt to implement everything that he wanted to implement. And already we're seeing a total revocation of many of Joe Biden's policies, even in the first few hours of office. Sometimes I'm not just looking at the principal politician like Trump. I'm looking at the effects of Trump's verbal content and body language upon the audience. And I think Trump was on about, I can't remember which policy it was, but there was a wide shot of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and they're both had their arms folded, crossed in, which in this context is quite defensive. And the expression I use is they had faces like thunder. The fact that they were showing sort of part anger, part disbelief at the fact that everything that they'd worked to achieve in their administration was going to be undone in a matter of hours. And I think from Trump's point of view, we didn't see this very sort of animated character. We saw someone with, kind of laser beam focus, because eye contact is another important one. It's generally eye contact is 3 to 5 seconds, but I noticed that his shoulders were down, his chest was out. This is a man that is 100% confident in his beliefs and his ability to carry out everything that he's saying. Someone that does a lot of public speaking myself, one of the actual things that people often say is, if an audience member, say, folds their arms, does that mean they're disinterested or they don't agree with you? Now, sometimes it does. One of the things I also look for is, I think, called a microexpression. So no matter where we're from in the world or our background, there's one thing that remains resolute, and that is a thing called a microexpression, because the human face really has only 7 basic expressions. So we can throw a smile, we can be sad, we can be angry, we can be surprised, we can show fear, anger, contempt, or disgust. And I noticed at certain times now, contempt or sort of smugness in a way, we demonstrate this by what we'll call a bilateral smile or a one-sided smile. And for the people that are reading or watching this, it's this kind of gesture. So you could see that although Biden on the face of it was trying to be presidential. He really wasn't buying any of it, and similarly with Harris, the most faked emotion is a smile, and we tell if someone's being genuine or not because of what we call these 3 lines here called crow's feet or laughter lines, and very often a smile is the most faked emotion because they didn't want to draw too much attention to themselves. But certainly Biden and Harris were not happy. So when Trump first exited the vehicle with Melania, we noticed generally he never uses these traits, and it's one that Tony Blair used to use, believe it or not. And it's by showing knuckles. If you watched him walk, generally he has his hands to his side and he's quite animated. Whereas as he was walking, also to the podium, his hands were facing forwards. Now, this is a psychological, almost unconscious gesture, primeval, showing your knuckles. So when we show our knuckles, it means I've come for a fight. This is similar to a cage fighter, Conor McGregor, who does a gesture called a chin thrust. And this is designed to undermine, intimidate their opponents. It's actually what animals tend to do. And the other key gesture that I noticed that Donald Trump does, it's a power gesture, and he will basically get his jacket, pull his jacket forward, and do the chin thrust. So this is, again, a man that's not come to take fools gladly. He's come to deliver what he wants to say. And I think he's going to look forward to seeing certain people that he considers that didn't support him. It's going to be interesting to see what their future holds. Melania is not one for the limelight, but I think in this particular inauguration, she came dressed to the nines, really, with the hat on. And I think, we didn't see any gestures that showed me that she wasn't anything less than 100% loyal and committed to supporting Donald Trump in this administration. I think overall, he surprised a lot of people. I mean, there were many moments where he got standing ovations. So I think, whoever wrote that speech or helped to write it, I think they hit a lot of key points for a lot of people. So whether they agree with some of them or not, I think a lot of people, did give him a standing ovation. There was also quite a few that didn't. And I noticed at certain points, I think there's one about gender where a lot of people didn't clap. So I think that's going to be a really contentious issue for him to kind of get momentum on. But I think overall, he did perform, in my opinion, very well and very presidential. I think if I had to kind of sum up his expression, it was one of solemnity. It was very solemn. But I think he knew it was going to create controversy. It will create controversy. And also the immigration, he says he's going to have the biggest mass exodus of illegal immigrants that America's ever seen. But I think gender is probably at the top of the political hot potato list, if that makes sense, in terms of what he's going to have to try and get through. But I think overall, I would say he performed very well.